Welcome to the Deep Dive. You know how it works. You give us your materials, and we distill them down to the essentials.
That's the plan.
Today, we're diving headfirst into the Tools Titans trading card game TCG.
Yep, based on those notes you sent over from Tools Titans Podcast, Episode 7.
Right, from Draw to Ascension 1. We're looking at how the game starts and this core mechanic, Ascension.
Exactly. Two really innovative areas, I think. First, how they kick off a match. It's genuinely unique.
Okay.
And second, this progression system, Ascension, which is all about evolving your main piece, the Titan.
And you, our listener, you want that knowledge fast but deep, right? That's what we aim for.
Yeah, hopefully some real insights without getting bogged down in, endless rules.
Definitely. Get ready for some light bulb moments. Okay, let's unpack the very start of a TCG game. Where do we begin?
Well, just for context, maybe we should quickly run through the standard turn phases.
Good idea. Lay the groundwork.
Okay, so a normal turn goes, draw, then charge. That's their resource system.
Charge. Got it.
Then build playing structures, tools. Then act using abilities, tasks, something called flux.
Okay.
Then clash, which is your combat phase.
Makes sense.
And finally, the end phase. So, 6 phases. Pretty standard structure for a TCG, really.
Right, that feels familiar enough. Draw, resources, play stuff, use stuff, fight, end. Standard.
Exactly.
But you mentioned the start is different. This is where TCG veers off the path.
Massively, yeah. Forget the usual opening plays you might expect. They have this specific sequence called the Forgegate Protocol.
Forgegate Protocol, okay.
And they're quite explicit. This isn't about rushing out creatures first turn, like, say, Pokemon.
Right.
Nor is it about setting up some massive combo immediately, like you might see in Yu-Gi-Oh!
So what is the focus then, right at the start?
It's fascinating. They emphasize zone building, like setting up your territory on the board.
Interesting. Zone building.
Resource management, obviously that's key,
Yep.
but also what they call a narrative tactician first approach.
Narrative tactician first. What does that imply?
It suggests your early moves are less about raw power right away and more about setting a theme, establishing your long-term strategy, building a foundation.
I like that. It sounds more strategic, less luck-dependent, maybe?
That seems to be the goal. So let's break down this Forgegate Protocol step by step.
Okay, let's do it. Step 1.
Step 1, even before drawing your hand, is the Divine Draw.
Divine Draw. Intriguing name. What happens?
Okay, so you reveal the top 7 cards of your deck. Just reveal them.
Okay, 7 cards off the top.
Now, if there happens to be a charge token card in those 7...
The resource cards, right?
Exactly. If there is one, you have the option to reveal just one of those charge tokens and add it straight to your charge pool, your starting resources.
Ah, so potential resource boost right away, but only if you hit 1 in the top 7. And only 1.
Precisely. And then, whether you took a charge token or not, all 7 of those revealed cards get shuffled back into the deck.
Shuffle them back in. Okay, that is different. What's the thinking there? They call it a mythic first pull.
Yeah, it's meant to replace that sort of initial hand check you get in other games, like needing a basic Pokemon.
Right, the hand validation thing.
But it's not about validation here. It's more like a little glimpse, a potential starting spark. It's less about pure variance, maybe adds a little ritual feel.
A divine spark. I see.
Uh-huh.
And even if you don't take the charge, you've seen 7 cards that are now shuffled back in. That's information, right?
Exactly. A small bit of knowledge about what was on top, which might subtly influence how you think about your first couple of draws.
Good point.
Okay.
Okay, so divine draw done. Cards shuffled back. What's next? Step 2.
Step 2. Draw your opening hand. 7 cards.
7. Okay, why 7?
Well, the notes suggest it hits a kind of sweet spot. More options than, say, Yu-Gi-Oh's 5, which helps consistency.
Right.
But maybe not as overwhelming or potentially clunky as even larger starting hands you see sometimes.
So balanced. More stable than some. More precise than others.
That seems to be the idea, yeah.
Yeah.
Balancing stability and early options.
Makes sense. Okay, divine draw, check. 7-card hand, check. Step 3, this is where the choices come in. Opening choices, not requirements.
Exactly. This is where player agency really kicks in early. If your 7-card hand has both a tool card and a task card,
Tool and task, okay.
you then have the option to place one of each into their zones right away.
Just an option, though, not forced.
Correct. It's purely your choice, based on your hand and maybe your strategy.
Okay, but what if I don't have both? Or what if I just don't want to place them yet?
Good question. 2 fallback options. Option 1. Just keep your hand as is. You don't place anything. And as a little bonus, you start your first turn drawing an extra card. So you'll draw 2 cards on turn 1.
Oh, interesting. A compensation draw. What's option 2?
Option 2. You, again, choose not to place anything, but maybe you signal it differently, or maybe it's just the default if you can't. In this case, both players get an extra draw on their first turn.
Both players. Huh. So no traditional mulligan then? No shuffling back a bad hand?
Nope. No mulligans at all. They specifically wanted something frictionless and fair.
Frictionless and fair. I like the sound of that. It avoids that awful feeling of starting way behind because of a bad draw or giving your opponent info by mulliganing.
Precisely. It avoids those early stalls and feels less punishing. Much smoother start to the game flow.
Okay, really liking this so far. So let's say I did have a tool and a task and I chose to place them. That takes us to step 4.
Step 4, zone prep, or as they also call it, Forgegate activation.
Okay, zone prep. Where do these cards actually go?
Right. If you place them, the tool goes into any one of the 5 tactical zones. Z1, Z2, Z3, Z4, Z5. Your choice.
Any of the 5, okay.
And the task card goes into a valid task zone. The notes specifically recommend Z2 or Z4.
Why Z2 or Z4? Any reason given?
Not explicitly in these notes, but you'd assume they offer some strategic benefit for early task completion, maybe zone adjacency matters or synergy later.
Got it. And if I skip placing the tool and task back in step 3, what happens in step 4 then?
Then you just skip the placement part of step 4. You just collect that bonus draw we mentioned, either just for you or for both players, depending on which fallback occurred.
And they mentioned this shared draw softens variance without rewarding bad deck building.
Yeah, the idea is it helps smooth out a slightly awkward start, but because it helps both players, it doesn't overly benefit someone who just didn't include enough early plays in their deck. It's a shared tempo equalizer, sort of.
Okay, let's quickly recap the Forgegate Protocol. Divine draw.peak at 7, maybe grab a charge, shuffle back, draw 7 hand. Option, place a tool and task if you have them. Fallbacks, extra draw for you or extra draw for both. Then zone prep. Put the tool and task out if you chose to. Finally, turn 1 begins.
You nailed it. That's the flow.
So what's the big picture takeaway here? Why structure the opening like this?
The notes highlight a few key things. Balance of risk versus consistency, it's more forgiving. Player agency right from the start. Game tempo, no mulligans slowing things down. Integrating charge, the resource, with drawing, which is interesting. And that narrative aspect, framing the setup as a sacred act.
Yeah, that sacred act of forging the battlefield. It does sound more thematic than just drawing cards and hoping.
Definitely gives it a different feel.
Now, something crucial, Titans. The notes say they aren't drawn. How do they work at the start?
Ah, yes. This is another huge difference. Your Titan. You choose it when you build your deck. It's not in your 50-card draw deck.
Not in the deck at all, so where is it?
It starts the game face up in its own special Titan zone. Always there, always visible, right from turn 0.
Turn 0, so before even the divine draw.
Well, conceptually, yes. It's chosen at deck building. At the table, you put it in its zone before anything else happens with the deck.
So even if my opening hand is, like, terrible for plays, my Titan is still there, ready to go. That's a guaranteed anchor.
Absolutely. It gives you a guaranteed starting point. It has its craft power, its CP, think attack strength, its structure threshold, ST, think health or resilience, and a passive ability that's active from the get-go.
And crucially, since it's not in the deck, it doesn't affect your chances of drawing tools, tasks, or anything else.
Exactly. It doesn't mess with your opening hand ratios or validity at all.
How does that compare to, say, Commander in Magic or Heroes in Flesh and Blood? They have similar, always available leaders, right?
Excellent comparison. The notes draw that exact parallel. Commander, Flesh and Blood hero, even Pokemon starting active, though that's drawn. TNT gives a narrative reason, though.
Oh, yeah. What's the lore justification?
Your Forge God trade deities. Mythic constants, always present.
Forge God trade deities. Okay, that fits the theme. Reinforces that narrative tactician idea again.
It really does.
So, just to nail down the absolute start sequence. 1, choose Titan at deck building. 2, put Titan in its zone, start a match. 3, shuffle deck. 4, divine draw, peak 7, maybe charge, shuffle back. 5, draw a 7 hand. 6, optional tool task placement or fallback draw bonus. 7, zone prep, if placed. 8, then turn 1 starts. Is that sequence 100% correct?
That's the precise flow. The Titan is your constant setting the stage.
Fantastic. Okay, I feel like we've got a really solid grasp on how TNT TCG kicks off. Very unique. Now let's shift gears. Ascension.
Right. Ascension. This is all about how your Titan evolves during the game.
Evolution. Sounds cool. How does it work?
It centers around an Ascension tracker. Basically, it tracks your progress towards powering up your Titan into its ascended form.
An ascended form, like a level up.
Pretty much, yeah. The tracker usually has 3 milestone slots. So think of it as 3 steps to ascend.
3 steps, okay. And what does this tracker look like physically?
The recommendation is something tangible, like a dial maybe, or a little track that can hold 3 tokens.
Tokens?
Yeah, and they suggest using unique shapes for these tokens, like a gear, maybe a rune shard, a crystal spark, something thematic.
Okay, cool shapes. So how do you get these tokens onto the tracker?
You place 1 token onto the tracker each time you complete a task card.
Ah, tasks again. So completing tasks fuels the ascension.
Exactly. Complete a task, place a token. Once you've placed the 3rd token, filling all 3 slots, that's the ascension trigger.
The trigger. And what happens then?
Your Titan transforms. If it's a dual-faced card, you flip it over to its ascended side.
Flip card, okay.
Or if it's a separate card system, you swap out your base Titan card for the new, stronger ascended Titan card.
That sounds like a really satisfying payoff. You work towards it by completing objectives, and then bam, Titan levels up.
That's definitely the feeling they seem to be going for, a major moment.
Are there other ways to represent the tracker, besides a dial or chip track?
Yeah, they also mention an Ascension Forge panel. Sounds a bit fancier. Maybe a dedicated board piece with grooves for the tokens.
Like a little dashboard for your Titan's progress.
Something like that. And it might have a visual cue, like flipping over to show an Ascended label once it's complete. Makes it very clear.
Nice. Okay, let's talk about the Titan card itself. Dual-faced or separate card? Pros and cons.
Whoa, the dual face card is neat, right? Very visual storytelling, just flip it over. Familiar mechanic, too.
Sure, lots of games use flip cards.
Downside is you absolutely need opaque sleeves for tournaments, obviously.
Right, can't let people see the other side. What about the separate card?
Separate card gives you more space, potentially, for art and text on both versions. You just keep the Ascended one aside until it triggers, then swap.
Simpler, maybe, sleeve-wise?
Could be. And then there's a third idea mentioned, an overlay evolution card, like a transparent sheet you put on top.
Whoa, like a visual upgrade effect.
Yeah, sounds very thematic, a mythic metamorphosis, but might be fiddly or need custom components. Dual-faced or separate seems more standard.
Okay, but regardless of how it looks, the rule is the same. 3rd task completed, 3rd token placed, then ascend.
That's the core rule. Consistent trigger. Complete task 3, place token 3, then immediately flip or reveal swap the Ascended Titan.
And it keeps its name, but gets a new title. And better stats and abilities.
Exactly. Same core identity, but powered up. New moniker, boosted CP and ST, new or modified abilities.
What kinds of changes are typical, just bigger numbers?
Usually more than that. Definitely increased CP and ST, so it hits harder, lasts longer.
Okay.
But also new abilities, or maybe existing ones get stronger, could unlock totally new strategies.
New keywords, maybe?
Yeah, potentially new keywords. Maybe it influences more zones or gets better synergy with tasks.
Could it tie into factions or anything like that?
Absolutely. Depending on the Titan, Ascension might give it stronger ties to its faction or interact with the weave system they mention, maybe gain immunities. Lots of design space there.
Definitely sounds like a major turning point in the match. Okay, back to the tracker components for a sec. The panel, 3 slots, the shaped tokens gear, crystal node, ash leaf, for examples. Any meaning to the shapes or the order?
The shapes could be thematic, like maybe the Gu token comes from completing a forge type task, the crystal from a construct task, the ash leaf from growth.
Ah, linking token shape to task type. Neat idea.
Yeah, adds flavor. But the placement order is usually just left to right as you complete tasks. Simple chronological progress.
Got it. So, to recap Ascension, it's this mechanical and narrative evolution. Boosted stats, new powers, visual change. Triggered by completing 3 tasks. Tracked by placing 3 tokens.
You got it.
Now, let's zoom in on the tasks themselves. They're obviously key here. How do they work? There's a task panel.
Right. A task panel is where you put your active task cards. Each task card usually has 3 progress circles printed on it.
Progress circles, like little check boxes.
Sort of, yeah. Visual markers for the steps needed to finish the task. The card also has a task type, glyph forge, control, growth, whatever.
Okay.
It specifies the reward you get for completing it, and some might have an optional Ascension synergy tag.
Ooh, synergy tag. Like bonus stuff if it matches your Titan's path.
Potentially, yeah. Could give extra benefits related to Ascension. And you track progress using progress tokens. Max 3 per task card.
So 3 circles on the card, max 3 tokens. How do you get the tokens onto the task card itself?
Usually, the standard way is you place one progress token on one active task per turn. Just steady progress.
One per turn, okay.
But some tasks might have other ways to gain progress. Spend resources, control zones, trigger effects, that sort of thing.
More variety. Makes sense.
And once all 3 circles on a task have a token, it's done. Completed.
And the reward, besides whatever the card says.
The key reward for Ascension. You take one of those progress tokens from the completed task.
Just one of the 3.
Just one, yep. And you move it over to your Ascension tracker.
That's the connection. So completing the task lets you move a token, marking progress towards Ascension.
Exactly. You complete the game's objectives, the tasks, and that directly fuels your Titan's evolution. It's a really elegant loop.
It really is. Ties objectives straight to your main unit's power curve. Okay, summarize the trigger flow one more time.
Sure. Complete a task, move one progress token from it to the Ascension tracker, do that 2 more times for 2 more completed tasks. Once the 3rd token lands on the Ascension tracker, boom, trigger condition met, flip or reveal your Ascended Titan.
Perfect. Seems very clear and engaging. Are there any advanced rules or exceptions? Anything tricky?
Well, the notes mention one interesting point for PvE player versus environment.
Solo or co-op play.
Right. In those modes, Ascension might need more than just 3 tasks. Maybe you need to activate a specific location, achieve zone harmony, things like that. Extra conditions.
Adds challenge for PvE. Cool. But in PvP, player versus player.
PvP, it's immediate. 3rd token hits the tracker, Ascension happens. Irreversible.
Got it. Okay, that adds a nice twist for different ways to play. So let's wrap this deep dive up. We looked at the Forgegate Protocol.
Yeah, that really innovative start. Player choice, zone setup, not just draw luck.
Right, from turn 0, really sets a different tone. And then the Ascension mechanic.
That engaging evolution for your Titan. Completing tasks, getting that satisfying power-up, both mechanical and narrative progression baked right in.
Yeah, and the design philosophy behind it all seems really coherent.
Definitely. Modularity, clear visuals, that myth tech vibe blending sacred and mechanical.
And reinforcing that kind of ritualistic gameplay feel.
Exactly. Every step feels like it matters.
So here's that final thought for our listeners. How do these unique start and progression systems in TNT TCG change the game compared to other TCGs you know?
Yeah, what strategic depth does it unlock? What kind of stories emerge from this structure? It really feels like they're aiming for something distinct.
A memorable experience, right? From the first draw to that big Titan transformation.
Absolutely. It definitely encourages you to want to explore TNT TCG further, see how these systems play out in a full match. There's a lot of clever design here.
For sure. Well, that brings us to the end of this deep dive. Thanks so much for joining us as we explored the sacred setups and powerful evolutions in Tools and Titans TCG.
My pleasure. It was fun digging into this.
We'll catch you next time for another insightful exploration.